I have made videos on domed roofs before. These are some of the images that I used in those videos. We're going to start with this, which is what they call the circus maximus. This is like an artist's rendition of, the ancient world, almost half backward, building impossible sites with the technology that we've been presented. Anyway, when you look at this thing, it does first look like what they have presented, like this was some type of seating that went all the way around and it would rise towards the back. Well, it's built in brick, you will see that afterwards, and then it looks like that there's solidified calcified concrete on top that's eroded away and gone hard in the flood. Okay, you can see that, but what people tend to forget with all this stuff is that, look, archaeologists have dug all that section out, what you're looking at there. None of that was revealed. They've had to reveal it, and then they've rebuilt the brick underneath. To me, this was some raised structure. There's still a hell of a lot more of it buried. For one thing, if it was seating, what would be the point in building it all in brick and then putting some concrete down, because the large square holes there would be for wooden beams, correct? Then you would build like a huge stage, put your beams through that concrete, and then layer your seating all the way around. Meaning that, if I had to guess, the concrete that's in the same shape as these square holes that the wooden beams were going for the seating to be built into, it will have been built above in the same shape. It will have carried all the way through to the top, and it's collapsed down on top of it, and they've been able to excavate it and shape it to the shape that you're looking at. And what proves that is on the left there. You can see how it's all collapsed down and fallen sideways. The centre is where the centre of the dome is, which they will never excavate, because what we've been presented as Romans couldn't have achieved something like that. All the metal that went into holding something like that, because you can't just build it in concrete, will have eroded away, oxidized away. That's my best guess. This thing here, I've not put down where it is, but if you look at it, you can see the imprints of a domed structure. Everything's buried, and the rest of the rooms and flooring around it. That's what I think it is anyway. Make up your own mind. This thing here is definitely a dome, an imprint, saturated wood. This will be the same degradable materials. It's just an imprint, and everything's just been covered in ash and sand from the flood. When you look down on it, it's a cross, isn't it? Well, when you look at the side, when you're inside the hole where they've dug out, more than likely in the past as well, there was maybe something precious in there, something valuable. Well, you can see where the wooden beams that went into building the structure that have now just turned to sand, like I've just been showing you. And just because you're looking at bricks on the outer rim, and whether or not that's been done in the past or by archaeologists, I don't know. But you can see these square wooden beams that I've pointed out in finer detail to you are sticking out of the wall now, turned sand. They are resting on cross beams. You can see it in the centre, and where it's fallen away, been chiselled away to hide it, and that at the bottom they've knocked a section away to make it look like a step, so there's obviously a lot more buried. This is also a dome, the rest of it's buried around it. But anyway, archaeologists, this site here, they call this a tomb. I'm guessing. Well, there's no bodies in there now, is there? This is an earlier photo. Well, this next image, you can see these skeletons that have been placed in there. They are lying in situ perfectly, like they've already been examined. This was no tomb. Or you could say that it ended up being a tomb, as these multiple level floors collapsed down on top of each other, and they managed to pull out a few skeletons and then place them in there for you to look at. Right, have a look at these for you, and then I'll come back in later. decided to show you this image that I had buried in one of my albums, and if you look where the arrows are pointing, you can make your own mind up on whether I'm right on when I've shown you that these blocks, most of them are, well, you can see it's a covering, you can see how thin it is. This is one of the few images that I've shown you before, and you can clearly see the pitched roof, where the pitched roof was. I would say that this was made from concrete due to how thick the floor is. Right, you can see how it's all just been hit with ash, and it's all just turned into a lump of solidified mess. That's what it is, and gone underwater and calcified. One of the main points that I would like to raise with this stuff here is that if you was to take a hammer and bash away at this, after about 2 hits it would all just crumble away in sand into your hand. It looks like hard rock, but it isn't. It's just mud rock, ash. It's all just sand. Okay, this thing here in Machu Picchu, it's thousands of feet above sea level, hundreds of miles inland, and yet it's been completely submerged in the events that I speak of. Whether or not this was a boat, I don't know, but it certainly was built from wooden beams. Just like this site in China here, anybody that's built anything will recognise how this has been put together, and yet it's just an imprint in mud. It's just how they were able to excavate this stuff is amazing, really. You know, the surrounding stuff must have just been like powder. But this thing here, to me, this looks like some giant tree, you know, that's rotted away. It's been floating around in the flood, the centre of it, and it's just the bark, right? So the mainstream are always pushing the ice age. Look, I don't believe in the ice age, I believe in the flood, right? So that's where all these large rocks came from, because they were mainly pieces of wood, petrified wood, that had been floating around.